Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the service of worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tucson. My name is Jamelia Omar, and I am our summer leave, sabbatical leave minister. Reverend Bethany will be back in the pulpit Sunday, September 3rd, so we're almost there. Our musicians today are well known if you've been around for a while. Please welcome back to the stage Kindred Spirits. As we begin, I have a few announcements and updates. Our requirement to wear masks in worship and religious education is lifted for now, although cases keep rising, so we're watching that data. You're always welcome to wear a mask, but it's not required. We do ask, though, if you're feeling sick, we encourage you to stay home and join us online, as many of our friends are doing today. I extend a special welcome to all of our visitors this morning, in person and online. There should be a link someplace in the YouTube for our new visitor welcome card. And in the back, you'll see our big banner that says Welcome Center. You're welcome to join us after service for more information and good conversation. Another quick announcement, our construction over in Holland is progressing rapidly. The water is back on, although it is still warm over there. So if we need extra bathroom facilities, they're open, as well as the ones here in this building and the ones out in the courtyard. And last announcement from Brian and the choir. You are all invited to the choir's first rehearsal and potluck, which is this week. The choir meets at 5:30 to 6:45 right here on Wednesday nights beginning this week. So yay! Join the choir. They're always welcome of new folks, no matter your singing ability. And in so many existing ways and so many ways we still dream of, our community is as varied as the blooms of the Sonoran Desert. Whoever you are, however you come here this morning, whoever of you have been, and whoever you are becoming, I invite you to bring your whole self here and now. In that spirit, in the spirit of welcoming everyone, in a minute, I'm gonna say go, and I'm gonna ask you to greet a neighbor, and as you feel comfortable, share a memory of a time in your life when you felt completely, utterly, totally accepted and welcomed, maybe even celebrated, if you could go that far, okay? So time when you felt completely and utterly accepted. Don't forget to share your name. Go. I hope we will continue these conversations later in service today and in social hour, which happens right here after worship. And Kindred Spirits, they're all yours. I think I'm ready now.
We're gathered. time of our birth. Come to this life endowed with self-worth as full-fledged members of humanity and part of the worldwide community. We all deserve to be equal and free and live where there's peace, love, and unity, along with our one shared reality. There still can be room for diversity. With all this in mind, let's respect one another. We truly are all sisters and brothers. So help make this world the best home it can be, and treat ourselves and each other with dignity. In these challenging times that we face, we need to extend more kindness and grace, to not get lost in polarity and lose sight of our affinity. We can bring the darkness up to the light, not get pulled down by other so-called righteous fights, because we're here to learn how to get along and not hold on so tight to who's right or wrong. With all this in mind, let's respect one another. We truly are all sisters and brothers. So help make this world the best home it can be, and treat ourselves and each other with dignity. With all this in mind, let's respect one another. We truly are all sisters and brothers. So help make this world the best home it can be, and treat ourselves and each other with dignity.
Good morning. My name is Wendy Gordon Weeks. I'm part of the Worship Associates team here. How are you this morning? We're going to start with Dana E. Warstop's poem, I Want to Be With People, which welcomes us to worship today. And she writes that, often people say that they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people. I know just what they're getting at, and I know they aren't getting it quite right. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me. I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved, to be eligible for salvation. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, that they have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things. I want to be with independent-minded people of good heart. I want to be with people who have many names and no name at all for God. I want to be with people who see me and see in me goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and foibles, and who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection to all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth. I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to resolve it. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope that is life and who will hold my hand as I walk mine. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to higher and more ethical living. I want to be with people who inspire one another to follow the call of the Spirit. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises I make. I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you. With joy at being together today, let us light our chalice with these words by Jamie Dorer, and please join me in reading them. As we light this chalice, we take those little sparks glowing within all of us and combine them to create this flame. And if you have a chalice or candle at home, light it now as we light our chalice here. Hang on.
Discussion? Discussion? Okay. Well, in that case, if it's not the discussion, then kindred spirits, how could anyone? Please join kindred spirits in singing How Could Anyone?
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
So we're going to practice dignity today. Any errors in the script are mine. So practicing my dignity. And so I'm going to explain why we're talking about dignity this month in a little bit. So stay on the edge of your seats for that. But we are. And I was thinking about what I wanted to share today. And my first thought was, well, what can I say about dignity that hasn't already been said? My second thought was, I do have some ideas. You'll hear those later. But I bet there is wisdom in this room that we could learn from each other. So in a minute when I say go, there are pencils and note cards on your chair or one near you. I want to ask you to answer some questions about dignity with a buddy. You may also do this yourself if you feel better thinking internally and writing down. But I really want us to hear from each other what we have to say. So on the screen, are the questions. The first one is, what does inherent worth and dignity mean to you? Knowing, right, our first principle, we the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And I think in some ways that's a really easy thing to say. I think it's a really hard thing to get. So what does that mean to you? So here's your assignment, not graded, is to discuss with a neighbor or by yourself and write down some notes. What does inherent worth and dignity mean? If you blow through that, you're welcome to take on the other 3 questions. How would you describe it to a child? To whom does worth and dignity extend? And how do we know we have it? Any one or all of those you get to. I'm going to give you 5 minutes according to my trusty watch. Are you ready? Any questions? Discuss with a neighbor or think through yourself. Okay, go. 5 minutes. down. Something, anything. No, it doesn't matter. So I do want to collect these. Your words might be featured in the sermon later on, for good or ill. So finish up your conversation. If you've got something on your note card, pass it down. Thank you, sir. Well, come around and collect them. You just talked, that's fine. Any others we can, thank you. Thank you. Okay. We have, thank you, ma'am. Oh, thank you, Dane. Thank you. Ooh, so much good feedback. Thank you. Thank you. I wouldn't be opposed to collecting more later if you come up with some.
Our earth is strong. It can hold our pain and our joy, our love and our anger. Our shared bowl, which we use for joys and sorrows each week, is strong enough to hold the big rocks, our collective celebrations and mournings, and also the smaller stones that will be added to signify our individual joys and sorrows. This morning, I'm holding in my heart those affected by the wildfires in Hawaii. And I also carry joy for the beauty of the desert during monsoon season, especially those gorgeous sunsets this week. Let us remember those desert people who came first in this place. We honor the Hohokam, the Yavapai, the Tohono O'odham, the Yaqui, and the people who no longer exist as tribal entities here in Arizona. We who live in the desert know that water is a life-sustaining and scarce resource. Let's remember those who are walking through our desert right now without access to water. We pour water from a plastic jug, like the ones used by those seeking to assure access to water, like our ministry partner, No More Deaths. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, I invite you to go to menti.com and put in the code 84874128. If any of you here in the sanctuary wish to put your thoughts up on Menti, I can help you with that. I'll be right over here. If you're here in person, I invite you to come up to the table and create ripples of hope by putting a stone into the water to symbolize your joy or sorrow. We ask those of you who do choose to come up to form a line down the middle and then return to your seat via the outside aisles.
joys and sorrows shared and those remain unspoken. Let's just take a moment of silence. Held in the warmth of our community, I want to invite us into, reading the Menti. Thinking of my brother and sister-in-law today who just lost their special fur baby, Jose, unexpectedly. Hearts go out to them. Sad that many of our beloved saguaro cacti have been dying in the heat and for lack of water. Joy for Menti.com equals letting us all connect so easily. Celebrating my wonderful teenage son's existence, he has a huge heart and an almost instinctual sense of social justice. He is one of a kind, so proud to be his mom. Feeling joy and gratitude that I am always, always learning. If I live long enough, I will be wise. Joy for a remote musical birthday celebrated with family. In a moment, some words will come up on the screen. I invite you into a responsive prayer, and your line is, "No one is outside the circle of love." If it feels normal and natural for you to say that line with us, please do. And if not, please enjoy as the love washes over you. We know that hurt moves through the world, perpetuated by action, inaction, and indifference. Our values call us to live in the reality of the heartbreak of our world, remembering that no one is outside the circle of love. We who are Unitarian Universalists not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being despite apparent brokenness, because no one is outside the circle of love. We know that things break or break down: promises, friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes, life is messy, and no one is outside the circle of love. With compassion as our guide, we seek the well-being of all people. We seek to dismantle systems of oppression that undermine our collective humanity. We believe we are here to guide one another towards love because no one is outside the circle of love. No matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. We are, no one is outside the circle of love.
One of the things that the choir does to keep me grounded is they tell me, "We don't know that song." I hope you know this next song, but if you don't know this next song, you'll catch it quickly, I believe. And if you don't catch it quickly, here's a little hint at how to get through it. May I have the first slide? The next lyric slide? The only thing that changes in this song are the pronouns I to we to you. And if you're learning the song, sink into what that might mean, I to we to you. It's a Buddhist mantra, a meditation exercise. And also, if all you can do is hang on to the rhythm a little of it, all you have to do is sing one note, may I be filled with loving kindness, may I be well, and that'll work. But I will sing other notes, and I encourage those of you that can catch the other notes to join me. So, may I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I
May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole.
Every week in our church, we take up an offering every week in our church. It's good to remind ourselves from time to time that the offering is symbolic as well as practical. We know that it is through our pledges that we build our budget and fund our yearly programs and ministries of worship and religious education, pay our staff and our professional religious leaders, and finance the comfort and beauty and renovations of our buildings. And we know that we could easily submit those pledge checks to the church any convenient time of the week. But we pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression of thanks for the blessing of abundance, to visibly bring in the harvest at this most cherished hour of our week. Our offering says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. The morning offering will now be given and received in the spirit of grateful fellowship. If you're joining us on live stream, you can send a check to the office, give online at UUCTucson/donate, uuctucson.org/donate, or text 833-361-5796. If you're here in person, the ushers will come around now with the offering baskets to collect your donations.
I'm forever open to full realization of our perfect union beyond time and space. Yeah, I'm forever open to full realization of our perfect union in love and in grace. I have a body with all of its ties, and like everybody, it lives and it dies. Living in a body, we forget who we are. Older than galaxies and the very first star. I have a mind, a diamond in the rough, and like most minds, it's full of crazy stuff. My mind is amazing, and I use it as a tool. When my mind uses me, I act like a fool. I am forever open to full realization of our perfect union beyond time and space. Yeah, I'm forever open to full realization of our perfect union in love and in grace. All of creation is a marvel, it's true. Spinning lights of glitter fill us through and through. We can't depend stand on a world that wastes away. Beyond time and space is the eternal way. I have an ego that sets me apart, and it works from the head, not from the heart. Ego thinks it's me, separate from you. Must do things the ego does not like to do. I'm forever open to the full realization of our perfect union beyond time and space. Yeah, I'm forever open to the full realization of our perfect union in love and grace. Our perfect union in love and grace.
Thank you. Love having you play. So those of us keeping track know that August starts our dry Baja 4 Desert Ritual Year of the theme Dignity. This is our collaboration with our 4 Southeast UU congregations to share worship resources and lifespan faith development based on these monthly themes. And so our theme this month, Dignity, I've said before, is kind of hard to preach on. Like, what is dignity? I think in some senses, we all kind of know what it is. And maybe more accurately, we all know when it has been withheld or is absent. I know you had some passionate conversations that I want to share some of your responses. Somebody just wrote me a card that said hi. So hi, I'm glad you're here today. Some of them have some very similar themes, like you are valued and important just for who you are, and we are born with these qualities. Everyone will be accepted into heaven or wherever you believe your soul will rest. Everyone has good inside them. We just have it, whether we know it or not. Right? That's really important, whether we know it or not. Dignity and worth is a central core of ethical social work. Thank you. A person is not their behavior. Oh my gosh, that's a hard one, isn't it? A person is not their behavior. Their worth and dignity not dependent upon their behavior. And to answer the question, to whom? Everyone who has sentience, a conscience, including animals, might be a tough one for some of us. And I wanted to read this one. Inherent worth and dignity means that we should treat all others with kindness and decency. They do not need to be open to it, and it is due to them even if they have very different beliefs from our own, and even if their own strengths and struggles make it difficult for us to enjoy being around them. To display dignity, we avoid diminishing others. They don't have to earn it. And it is available to all of sentient life. And I want to end with this quote, and this person wrote it in quotes. God don't make no junk. God don't make no junk. Thank you all. You might see these appear next week too, or in other venues. And these are fabulous conversations I hope we can continue during social hour. Because like so much of Unitarian Universalism, this is the middle of a conversation. It's neither the beginning nor the end. Especially when we consider where this concept of inherent worth and dignity comes from, out of the Christian tradition. So given our roots in historical Christianity, we really have to start with this concept of original sin, right? It comes clear that this concept of inherent worth and dignity is a direct rejection of original sin, the concept that humans are born in a state of sin, which is inherited and inheritant. Original sin is the state of being human, right? Traditionally, the origin has been ascribed to the sin of the first man, Adam, who disobeyed God in eating the forbidden fruit, and in consequences is transmitted this sin through all of humanity, through his heredity and descendants. Lots of people have been writing about this, specifically St. Augustine back in 350s and 430s. So some 1,600 years later, original sin is losing ground in Christianity today, and we as Unitarian Universalists are a direct inheritor of this. We've done a lot to both reject this theology, and as radical branches of Protestant Christianity, we have taken our foundational documents and doctrines in all sorts of directions, but theological heritage remains. Nancy MacDonald Ladd writes, Unitarianism, one branch of our heritage, says one God, not three, not mediated or modified by Jesus or any other prophet, one God. So there's our Unitarianism. And our Universalism, the unyielding belief that each and every person is endowed with an original blessing that calls them and claims them regardless of circumstances or even worthiness. Every person inherently endowed with worth and dignity, original blessing for every person with no categorical exclusions in the least. So we have these two branches that come together. We've moved on from this doctrine of original sin to one of original blessing. This concept of dignity and inherent worth is not strictly UU. Some of us know Austrian Viktor Frankl. He might be most remembered as an outspoken survivor of not just one, but 4 different concentration camps between 1940 and 45. But his biography says by the time he entered the concentration camps at 37, he'd already spent much of his adult life as a psychiatrist and neurologist, specializing in the treatment of suicidal patients. And what I love about his story is that even when he was living in the ghetto with restricted freedoms, he worked with suicidal patients. He organized a suicide prevention group to serve as shock absorbers as folks came into the camps. Frankl had an epiphany while he was in the camp. He wrote about this in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He wrote, quote, "For the first time in my life, I saw the truth as it is set into song by so many poets, proclaimed as the final wisdom by so many thinkers. The truth that love is the ultimate and highest goal to which human can aspire. Then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and human love have to impart. The salvation of human is through love and in love." Salvation through love and in love. Love at the center. So as a little side note for those of us that don't necessarily believe that love and salvation have the Christian theology meaning that we do, what do we do with that? One answer is from the love expert. No, I don't mean Pappy the troll from Frozen, for those of you that, although him too. This is Eric Fromm, and he writes, "If it is a virtue to love my neighbor as a human being, it must be a virtue and not a vice to love myself, since I am human being too." Selfishness and self-love, then, far from being identical, are actually opposites. The selfish person does not love himself too much, but too little. In fact, he hates himself. This lack of fondness and care for himself, which is only one expression of his lack of productiveness, leaves him empty and frustrated. It is true that selfish persons are incapable of loving others, but they are not capable of loving themselves either. Salvation through love and in love, even if it is our own self that we are saving. So back to dignity, back to Viktor Frankl. He's known to many of us today as a voice and definition of dignity as being dignified. The sense of dignity of being calm in the center of a storm. While the storm rages around us, we maintain our calm. We might be tempted to say that this is a man who is dignified. He endured the worst circumstances we humans can inflict on each other and has maintained his composure. But I don't think this is quite it. As appealing as that image of being calm in moments of storm is, the image I have in my mind is of a very buttoned-up Victorian schoolmarm who's always severe in appearance and ready to shush us and keep us quiet and keep us in line and asking us to stay in our place. Dignity does not ask us to stay in our place. Sometimes dignity means dancing wildly. It means screaming in the streets in protest. It means celebrating a sports ball win. It means joy and exultation and tears and rage. Without all of the emotional colors, we have a less than human life, a less than dignity-filled life. And isn't this what the scholarship about patriarchalism has taught us? When half of our population is denied full range of human emotions like tenderness, grief, fear, and sadness, we see dysfunction grow. Dignity is all of human life. Appropriately self-regulated, right? So those of us that have been working with Reverend Sam this last year have heard that term a lot in the spirituality of conflict. Regulated or self-regulated does not mean that we are always calm. It means that our outward expression of self matches the situation we find ourselves in. If we're watching our house burn, for example, having a rapid heart rate, sweating, shallow breathing, those are probably natural and regulated reactions. However, in times of conflict with a loved one, having a heightened self-regulation isn't fitting. Our job is to attune our physical and emotional state to the situation. So being a buttoned-up schoolmarm, for me, is not always the right state. As Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our responses lie our growth and our freedom, and possibly our dignity. This approaches the definition of dignity I want to be comfortable with, which is the broadest and most sustainable self-determination for each of us. I get to choose for myself. And so what about worth? Worth might be more familiar for us as the terms of value, importance, significance. One of our passed on elders, Alondria Williams, wrote, "We are worthy not because of what we produce, but because of who we are. We are divine bodies of light and darkness. You are not worthy because of what you offer, not because of what is in your mind, not for the support you give others, not for what you give at all. We are worthy and whole just because." So, what does that mean? If we have both inherent worth and dignity, some logical conclusions: we don't have to work in order to rest. You can rest because you're tired. Our value is not measured by how much we produce for the capitalistic patriarchal system. Our value is just in being alive. You get to make decisions about your own body. This is complex and we should unpack it over time. What about children? What about pregnant people? What about elders? What about folks with disabilities? There's so much nuance in this ask of us, and that's why we're here in this faith, because we embrace the nuance. Somebody said to me once, "This is not an easy faith, is it?" I said, "No, not an easy faith." And we can't leave inherent worth and dignity with "I have dignity," because then we start another slippery slope of attributing dignity only to some and not to others, and not to all. We need to move from I dignity to we dignity. If we all have worth and dignity, is it my dignity ever in conflict with yours? Can my choices be in conflict with yours? Yes, of course. We can choose different things. But my dignity can never diminish yours because it is internal inside you, always and forever. Bayard Rustin, African-American civil rights leader, wrote, "When an individual is protesting society's refusal to acknowledge his dignity as a human being, his very act of protest confers dignity upon him. So it is in fighting for the dignity of others that I attain my dignity. Because justice is what love looks like in public, just like tenderness is what love feels like in private." We need the last half of this new Article 2 equity, which we'll be talking about a lot for the next year. This proposal in Article 2 takes us from inherent worth and dignity to, we declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent worthiness and dignity. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. We'll have lots of time this year to think this through. But what it means is my dignity cannot be at the expense of yours. My dignity and fighting for my dignity builds yours. So then, how do we create systems that are fair and just? How do we seek justice, love in public? We must be concerned with the fight for justice because the fight for dignity is the fight for all of us to thrive and flourish. So how do we create that community here with us? Thank you. We have friends that are coming out of the Welcome Center to watch the story with us. I want to make sure they can see. Okay, I think we're set.
Strictly No Elephants. Written by Lisa Manchev. The trouble with having a tiny elephant for a pet is that you never quite fit in. No one else has an elephant. Every day I take my elephant for a walk. He is a very thoughtful sort of walk. He doesn't like the cracks on the sidewalk much. I always go back and help him over. That's what friends do, lift each other over the cracks. Today, I'm walking my tiny elephant to number 17. It's Pet Club Day and everyone will be there. Come along, there's a good boy. I coax him the last few feet. It'll be fine. When I look up, there's a sign on the door. Strictly no elephants. My tiny elephant leads me back to the sidewalk, never minding the cracks. That's what friends do, brave the scary things for you. Did you try to go to the pet club meeting too? The girl asks. Yes, I say, but they don't allow elephants. The sign didn't mention skunks, the girl says, but they don't want us to play with them either. They don't know any better, I tell her. He doesn't stink, the girl adds. No, he doesn't, I agree. What if we start our own club? Come along, I say, making certain that my tiny elephant follows me, because that's what friends do, never leave anyone behind. We can play here, one of our new friends says. So we paint our own sign. All are welcome. My tiny elephant will give you directions if you need them. Because that's what friends do.
That is a great story. Hi. Our last song today has 3 points of entry. Let me just kind of teach them to you. Some of you will know the song and some of you will remember it, and many of you will not, and so catch on as you can. One point that you could do is simply to, if you're able to stand and wait for it. If you're able to stand, you can go stomp, clap, step, clap, stomp, clap, step, clap. So at the minimum, try to do that. If you can't, you can also do body, clap, body, clap, or wiggle, 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 whatever you need. There are 3 notes to the song, essentially. You can sing, we rise, we rise, we rise. Or, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. And those are the notes. Now, if you can catch those notes fast enough, you can also add other notes. That said, will you rise in body or spirit and join me in singing the final hymn? 1, 2, 3. We rise, humbly hearted, rise, won't be divided, rise, with spirit to guide us, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise. All of the children rise. Grow to wisdom, rise. Ancestors surround us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. We rise up from the wreckage, with tears and with courage, fighting for life now, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. Last time. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here.
18.
So we'll extinguish our chalice and listen to Kindred Spirits one more time. And following that, please join us for social hour right here. We always appreciate assistance, moving chairs so we can gather together. Now, will you please join me in reading our words of chalice extinguishing, which come from Jean M. Rickard. We have a calling in this world. We have a calling in this world. We are called to honor diversity, to respect differences with dignity, and to challenge those who would forbid it. We are people of a wide path. Let us be wide in affection and go our way in peace.
It doesn't matter, I don't always take the time to tell you just what you mean to me. Don't need to undersell you, that's not real, not how I feel. Only love is real. It doesn't matter, I don't always know just how I'm feeling. Can't seem to find the words for how I've been feeling. They're not real, not how I feel. Only love is real. Really real, the living ideal. Nothing ever lasts except the love we reveal. When all is said and done, what will you remember? What never really mattered or what always will, that fear can conceal. But only love is real. It doesn't matter that the world just didn't turn our way. Can't seem to find the hope we had in yesterday. That's not real, not how we feel. Only love is real. It doesn't matter that the world just seems so full of sorrow. Can't seem to see beyond our worries for tomorrow. They're not real, not how we feel. Only love is real. Really real, living ideal. Nothing ever lasts except the love we reveal. When all is said and done, what will you remember? What never really mattered or what always will, that fear can't conceal. Only love is real. Only love is